This week on TGC News, gun companies being bought and sold, a blazing dumpster fire of a brand, and a bunch of rad new guns. Let's go. Welcome back to another episode of the Gun Collective News. I'm John Patton, and I want you to describe the type of person that would use this rifle down in the comments. They're not using it in the comments. I want you to describe it in the comments. The only way to get in on winning about $40,000 worth of stuff from all the sponsors is to get a ticket right now at guncon.net and join us June 29th at Brownells in Grinnell, Iowa. Guncon.net, go. We have an absolute mountain of industry news this week. And like there's so much going on. It's ridiculous. I don't know what the hell is going on. I don't know. But there's a lot of stuff to cover. First, Anderson Manufacturing, aka Poverty Pony Actual, has a new CEO. The guy's name is Greg Stariarski? I don't know. And he comes from a background primarily in the gun industry, working for companies like Vista Outdoor, EOTech, and Steiner Optics. Let's hope he doesn't fuck it up. People, including myself, love to crap on Anderson for fun. But much like PSA, they've done a lot to arm everyday Americans with affordable guns. They really have. Moving on from there, Steyr Arms has been acquired by RSBC Investment Group, which is the same group that currently owns Arex, the pistol company. The price tag was not mentioned, but they did say that Steyr did over 45 million euros in sales last year. And I'd bet most of that was not in the US. For those that aren't familiar, Steyr's main claim to fame is the AUG rifle, but they also have a cult following for their pistols. I'm curious to see what comes out of this one. I don't know, maybe we'll see them make an effort to actually grow the US side of the brand rather than just let it stagnate on old designs. You know who isn't stagnating though? This week's sponsor, Radian. Radian offers some of the most interesting pistol accessories out there, like the Guardian Optic Protector with the 6 backup sights. Made for optics like this RMR, you can rest assured it will protect your optic even in the harshest conditions, even if those conditions are a bit ridiculous. To learn more, head over to radianweapons.com. Yes, there is in fact more industry news to cover. One of the most well-known brands when it comes to reloading has been sold off by Vista Outdoor. Sorta. Vista confused the out of normal people by creating a sub-parent company. They made a couple of these. It's a sub-parent company, and one of them is called Revelist. Well, Revelist owned RCBS, among others like Camelback, Blackhawk, Primos, and Quiet Cat. And they just sold off RCBS to Hodgdon. Now, Hodgdon makes some of my favorite smokeless reloading powders. Shout out to H110. And they are the company that now owns RCBS. It's a really smart move and expands on Hodgdon being a staple in the reloading side of things. We shall see what they do with it. Hopefully, it's great. IRA USA, aka Infrared Outdoor, is in the news this week related to U.S. government sanctions. Now, the sanctions to essentially stop business was on a company called Yantai IRA Technology, and tons of folks were talking about IRA USA being involved in the trouble here. They released a statement essentially saying that Yantai IRA was one of their suppliers and that they are a different company altogether and are not involved in the sanctions or anything to do with Russia, Ukraine, blah, 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 what the sanctions are for. They also used the eyes on them to announce that they're dropping a super fancy thermal later this month. They, on top of that, will be at GunCon, likely with that optic. So if you guys want to, go get a GunCon ticket, you can see it with your own eyes. Look through a thermal. It's amazing. The industry news continues. This is just bonkers how much stuff has happened. This Thompson Center is back. TC Arms used to be under the Smith & Wesson portfolio, but Big Blue absolutely crapped the bed on keeping that brand alive, and eventually it just kind of like died on the vine. Well, now they've been purchased by a guy named Greg Ritz, and they claim to have new products dropping in 2025. Ritz has a background in the industry as CEO of TC back in 2004 to 7. Then for a longer period, he worked as a TV hunting show host on a show called Hunt Masters, among other things. So it seems like things have come kind of full circle for him. The video that they released talks about legacy and American values and blah, 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 blah. It's the same stuff everybody says. Everybody says this. Again, let's hope he doesn't f it up. And how about we cap off the industry news section with a blazing inferno of absolute poop, known better as Kalashnikov USA. There is talk about that company closing its doors, and I couldn't really find anything concrete on that, but things are just kind of getting worse across the board for them. We previously covered the debt-based lawsuit from a company called Indomim against KUSA, and KUSA was sued because they owed a boatload of money. And they lost that case, and they settled. Well, if we're following along the court filings in Broward County, Florida, we see that their lawyers were replaced on that case about a year ago, which was later followed by a motion to enforce, which means they weren't paying around Christmas time, and then again in March of this year. Well, now those same lawyers that were brought on to replace the others have bailed due to irreconcilable differences. Oh boy, I wonder what that means. And keep eating popcorn because there's yet another case. Yeah, a separate case with KUSA, where in shorter terms, they are being evicted for not paying rent. Now, I would feel bad for them, but generally speaking, I've never heard a good thing about the inner workings of that company. In fact, let's create an award. Let's just make some shit up here. Let's create an award for Dumpster Fire of the Month with their logo on it.
Some people see a dumpster fire and do nothing but watch the spectacle.
Congrats, Kalashnikov USA. You earned it. Where's all the new guns this week, John? Is that what you're saying? Well, Springfield just announced they are releasing a new AR. And while you're rolling your eyes, I'll describe it for you. It's called the SA-16A2, and it's a recreation of the beloved M16A2. It's got an M16 BCG, carry handle upper, the round handguard, fixed stock, 20-inch barrel, and they even have the burst and government property markings on it. This appears to be a pretty faithful clone. I'm not like a clone guy, but yeah, it looks like it. And here's the part you might not hate. The MSRP is $1,249. I fully expected this to be like north of $1,500. In today's market, that's not a horrendous price for what you're getting, and I bet that come like Black Friday this year, something like that, you'll see some decent deals putting this maybe closer to $1,000. I'm not a clone guy. I'm not a clone guy. But I don't hate this. Benjamin Airguns released something pretty rad this week as well. It's called the M600, and the 600 stands for 600 feet per second with an arrow. This is not the first airgun to shoot arrows. It's not. But it's on the bleeding edge of that side of things. They're also bragging about this thing not having what's known as the archer's paradox when the arrow is moving downrange. What that means is that there's no wobble in the arrow, kind of like does this oscillation, and therefore you get far better, consistent accuracy. The arrows weigh 375 grains, and traveling at 600 feet per second, that is 300 foot-pounds of muzzle energy. That is approaching pistol cartridges. This is like right there with pistol cartridges, with a projectile that can have a freaking broadhead attached to the end of it. Now, hunting regulations are kind of a mess for these things, so you'd have to like confirm in your area where it's legal to hunt. It's probably rifle season, but you should check. But I really enjoy seeing the push for more power out of air guns. MSRP here is $900, and it comes with a quiver and 3 carbon fiber arrows for that price. Moving on from there, Wilson Combat is back in the news this week with a new version of the EDC X9. It's the new 2.0 version, and they've made a couple subtle tweaks. The main one is that the gun is sort of more slim overall because they now have 1911 style grips, which are replaceable if you want. I'm sure, do that if you want to. The other thing is that they moved to a one-piece frame similar to the SFX9. MSRP starts at $3,210, which is not cheap at all, but if it's amazing, maybe it's justifiable to you. The original version that we tested, the 3¼ inch, is still one of my favorite guns on the planet. It is so freaking, it's such a good gun. Oh my gosh, it's good. So hopefully, this new 2.0 version keeps up that tradition. I'm curious to know how many of you guys out there would actually carry an expensive gun. Sound off in the comments below, and while you're doing that, I'm just going to do it again. Go to guncon.net and buy a ticket. Come see us in Iowa at the end of June. It's going